somewhere. Recording going somewhere. Okay. Let us learn. So here's we're gonna do really in class we did Seif Dalid to the end, which is a lot. So we'll do the Seifim and the Shulchan Aruch. We'll do all Shulchan Aruch today, and then I've got a bunch of Shach. I thought about doing some Taz, but he's a lot of very complicated Taz in this, and I think it'd be easier to stick to the for us as a Chazarah Shir to stick to the Shach. So. Um, yeah, let's do it. Josie, I won't have you read. Maybe I'll review all of Dalit, but start. Let's read Dalit in the Shulchan Aruch.
אסור שנתבשל עם התר, אפילו מקירוב הוא שלם וזרקו. צריך 60 כנגד כל איסור, מפני שאין אנו יודעים כמה יצא ממנו. Okay, so it's forbidden to cook.
It's Isur. It's Isur, not Asur.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's Isur that's cooked with something permitted, even if it's something you recognize and it's complete and you take it out and throw it away, you still need to measure 60 against the entirety of the Isur that was there, because we don't know what came out of it, or we don't know basically how much came out of it, I should say.
Good. I want to stop us there for 1 second. What's going on? What's the why would we think that you wouldn't need to measure 60 against the whole Isur? Start with that.
I picked the piece of meat out and now it's not there anymore, and what's left might be just a couple drops of what exuded.
Exactly. In fact, it's shalem, right? It's like, it's a complete piece. It maybe even like is the same size as it was when it fell in. Like didn't seem to lose anything. Um, but yeah, good. And why might we measure against the entire volume of the piece? Forget we don't know how much came out of it. What's the other? If you didn't have that line, what might you also be thinking?
I'm sorry, which line?
If you didn't have, we don't know how much came out of it, right?
Right.
What's the other thing?
So your other havamina is maybe nothing came out of it. Maybe it was entire and nothing exuded from it or at all.
Or maybe I go the other way. Maybe what came out is irrelevant. You had, that amount of Isur in there and that infected everything, and maybe even while it was in there it infected everything and you have Hanan or something like that, and then you throw it out, but it doesn't help. It doesn't fix the situation. So, um, but right. Either way, right, the way we say it is we don't know how much left, and therefore how much, let's call it ta'am left the thing. And even if the whole thing seems to be there, it doesn't matter. Um, but we'll see this right interesting at the very end of this with the Ramah has like an interesting thought about this piece. But okay, I don't think I said anything that interesting. Keep going.
לפיכך, המבשל בקדרת איסור שהיא בת יומא, או תוכף כף של איסור בהתר, צריך 60 כנגד כל הקדרה, וכנגד כל מה שדחב מהכף, שאין אנו יודעים כמה בלעו, בין שהם של חרס או עץ או מתכת.
Mhm.
Therefore, if you cook in a pot that is that's been used in the last day that had something prohibited in it, or you stirred with a spoon in something that was dipped in something prohibited, and now you're dipping it in something permitted, you need 60 against the entirety of the pot, and against the entirety of the spoon, because we don't know how much it absorbed, and we don't, and it doesn't matter whether they're earthenware or wood or metal.
Great. In other words, we assume the worst case in all.
Sorry, it doesn't say against that the part of the spoon that was dipped in.
Yes, I could call it the reckoning. You are right. You are right. As opposed to, by the way, since you brought it up, as opposed to what?
Ham miktato ham kulo.
Exactly, which is Rabbeinu Ephraim's take on metal spoons, right? Is that chamik sato ham kulo? People good with that principle? Chamik sato ham kulo? Yeah? Or you're is that a look there? No, are you good?
It sounds fine. Not familiar with it.
The Rabbeinu Ephraim says that because metal heats, like when you heat metal, it heats evenly, right? The heat distributes itself throughout the entire metal very quickly. That also the flavor, it's Rabbeinu Paris, not Rabbeinu Ephraim? It's
I think
Rabbeinu
so.
Ephraim. That's right. Okay. Rabbeinu Ephraim is Hanan B'Shem.
Banan. Banan.
Bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you are correct. Um, he says, in other words, when I dip the spoon in, because the whole metal heats up, that also means the flavor goes from the tip of the spoon all the way down out into the soup, essentially. So he thinks that metal is more dangerous as a substance in that sense. Because even if you dip only a little bit of the metal in, the entire contents of the metal exude flavor into the thing. So that's his take. But
How
I
do
mean,
you measure the pot?
what was that?
I'm just trying to picture this measuring of the pot.
Hmm.
How do I measure the pot against the food to get my 60? Is it
Oh,
the inside of the pot?
no, no, it's the walls of the pot, right? The walls.
The whole walls of the pot?
Yeah, yeah. So what you would do is you just do a displacement of water. In fact, um, there's a few mafarshim get into that. There's also a
There's a Mordechai here.
it's Mordechai, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's also it's there's a Mishnah in Arachin. Rabbi Yehuda goes in. It's Rabbi Yehuda, I think, in Arachin there, who talks about like, wait, if I vow, the arm of somebody to the temple, how do I know, like an arm's worth of gold, Max's arm's worth of gold to the Beit HaMikdash? How do I know, what's the volume of Max's arm? You dunk it in water. So it's already in the Mishnah.
So they were familiar with Archimedes.
They were. I mean, whether they knew it was from Archimedes or not, I don't know. But they were from, or whether or not even Archimedes himself came up with that idea, or it was known before Archimedes, and just a nice story.
What's
Right.
the Archimedean idea
It's
principle here?
there was the king who was had a crown made of gold and I think this is what it was, and it was like I was and had some suspicion that the blacksmith or goldsmith, whoever it was had made it and not of pure gold, had stuck other stuff in there, and asked Archimedes to figure out how to prove if it was all gold or not. And Archimedes went to a bathhouse to bathe because he couldn't come up with a solution, and he got into the bath and he watched the water get displaced and he
Yeah.
realized he could measure the density. The weight was easy, right, to tell the weight, and he could measure the volume, and then he could tell it wasn't really gold. And he jumped out of the bathhouse and he shouted "Eureka!" and ran through the streets of Athens or whatever it was. That's so a wonderful story.
But when we say 60, we don't factor density, do we? We only factor the
Volume.
mass.
Not mass, volume. It's volume.
Volume.
It is
Mass would
volume.
include density to some level, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, mass can be. We could do it as mass, but we don't. We do it by volume, and that's really no. It's an important point because I hear this mistaken all over the place. Right? People talk about the weight. The no, no. We do it by volume, and so yeah. Actually, like it's interesting. Like even though I don't know, does volume directly correspond to flavor? I'm not sure. Probably not. But on the other hand, as we know, as we'll see, Shishim is like a good stand-in. It's not actually perfect. And so yeah. Um, but
Um, Also, what I think in my head I had pictured surface area of the pot and not, the depth of the walls as being really relevant. But I guess the imagination here is like the actual, I'm using the word mass incorrectly, but all of the piece of the pot is measured here.
Yeah, yeah. This actually comes up. The Tosfot bring it up at one point, but also like whole questions about like what can you have, for instance, the contents of the pot to be 60 to 1 against the walls of the pot itself? Like what kind of like you'd have to have a very thin pot. Just look at most of the pots you have. You will go measure them. It'd be a very thin pot with all that's very wide and you're thin in terms of very thin walls and. It's probably in most cases with pots, you're not getting a 60 to 1 ratio between the contents of the pot and the walls of the pot itself. Um, so,
Really?
yeah. We have, right, what you're usually, and maybe I'll take like, uh,
Well, depends how wide it is, correct?
yeah, no, but the whole
You're
thing is
getting bottom.
the,
Yeah.
the ratio between um, uh, v- um, surface area and volume of a container, right? Which is surface
Mhm.
area is going to be related with you add in the thickness to the volume of the container itself. It's very hard to get to a 60-to-1 ratio for something
I should
reasonable.
think. Yeah.
Um, and this will become look,
But a spoon, not as hard.
yeah, I will tell you when somebody calls you up and says, I cooked chicken soup in a milk pot, right? The first thing you're going to go to is not, well, maybe there's a 61 ratio between the soup and the pot. The first thing you're going to go to is Eno Benyomo. It's the first thing, right? Because that's actually very likely going to get you something versus the volume thing is not going to, with the pot itself is unlikely. With the spoon is very likely, right? If you have a spoon that you dunk in the soup, that's going to be 61. That's not such a big deal. So, um,
Are there like online experiments of like here's what it would look like to get to Shushiman? I imagine someone had to have done that.
Someone needs to, right? That would be a really, I think that would be fruitful, right? Because it would
Yeah.
be fruitful to know because when you deal with these problems, you want a quick answer and, you want to help people out. And we don't really know. I don't, maybe they knew more in their world. I have really little sense of what the volume of my pots is, and compared to my utensils and so forth. So,
Because hypothetically, well, you could use the Archimedean principle to determine.
yeah, you could.
But my typical soup pot is a 9 or 11 quart pot,
Yeah.
right? So the question is, do I have less than 11 divided by 60, or basically a sixth of a quart of metal,
Yeah.
in volume, in that volume of displaced water there? And the answer is probably, I probably do have less than a sixth of a quart of water, because that's a significant amount.
hmm
But
Yeah.
not, but also you have to realize that, like, I may not be filling my entire pot to,
Yeah.
like, I don't cook 11 quarts of soup. I might cook a quart or two of soup, in which case the numbers, very quickly become problematic.
Mhm. Yeah, we will, I mean, there are places with times when you actually will have to measure things. Sometimes you'll know, right? If you're following a recipe and you're like, oh, shoot, I had, forget the pot, like I had, let's just say like, a quart of liquid I poured in. And let's say I had 4 cups of liquid and I know that I had, 1 teaspoon of chalev that I accidentally added instead of fat, or something like that. And you're like, okay, we can do those ratios. That's very plausible. Um, but
You could,
and like in their world, right? They didn't have the precise measuring devices that we have, but they did good estimations in all these cases, I think. So the Omed Yafe, right? Maybe which is like a generous estimation, or maybe but
Careful.
yeah, I want to point out the Shach, by the way, here. You might think, right, this is like a chumrah, like we don't know how much came out of it. He does say, right, if you look at Yud, he says, Afilu Isur Derabanan, right? Um, like we don't make a distinction here between Isur Deraita and Isur Derabanan. And we're going to see a lot of this come out, right? That in general, we do treat Isurim Derabanan the same way we treat Isurim Deraita, with some exceptions, which we saw last week. Was it a shach? Yeah, we did a shach last week, right, where he actually gets into the Nishbach case. He's like, well, min b'she'eno mino, we are machmir because of tamokim amasho and Nishbach. He's like, but what about chicken and milk? Like, shouldn't we be lenient there? Because that's the Ravanan. And there he seems to think, yeah, it's like we should be lenient in the Nishbach, in the Safek case there. But in a lot of other cases, we are not lenient about those things. So. Okay. Um, that was yeah, let's do the Roma. Josie, just do the Roma too.
Sure. Haga ובלבד שבלעו על ידי רתיחת אש, שאז הבליעה הולכת בכל הכלי. אבל על ידי רתיחת מליחה, אינו נבלע בכלי רק כדי קליפה, ואין צריך לשאר רק כדי קליפה. He references the Mordechai here.
Mhm.
V'ayin la'el siman samech tet. So look above it at 60 at Siman 69. So the Ramah is going to limit this to saying only when you're doing this over a fire, but if you are doing this by salting, which is also considered a type of cooking, you only have to look at a thin layer of the pot itself that you're comparing against.
Exactly. So, this is really talking about the cases of whatchamacallit, malicha for like koshering, right? Like for salt, getting rid of the salt. It's just putting salt on. This is actually like we'll get there at some point, but just putting salt on food does not cook the food halachically. It's like putting enough salt so it's inedible. That's what cooks the food, which is the amount of salt you put onto in order to take the blood out of meat, right? That's really the case we're talking about here. So,
What about pickling
good. That could be that
or
pickling could be
similar?
also, yeah. That's in some
Oh,
cases.
wait a second. Lacto fermentation or vinegar? Because
Uh,
when we say pickling, halachically, we mean salted pickles.
yeah,
Lacto fermentation, yeah. Okay.
yeah. It could be. We'll get into this a little bit more, and I'm not remembering all the details of that at the moment, But I just don't think this situation is going to come up too often, also for us practically. But since we unfortunately don't salt our own meat anymore, at least I don't. Maybe some of you guys do. Then great on you if you do. So, but
No, but you can make ceviche with fish, which
um,
which is basically cooking with acid and
it
salt.
is. It is. Of course, right. You can have fish. You're right. So if you are doing that, yeah, all right, that's a fair point. So
But
there's actually a question about kibush. Where did I see it?
hmm.
Someone brings it up about whether or not. So yeah, there's a difference. Salting. There is pickling, which is kibush. Which is like putting in liquid for a long period of time, which could or could not have like sharpness to it as well. May have a different dean here. Um, but you think it's in the United Nations? Kibush? Oh.
Sorry, I did it in the chat for a reason.
And I said it out
I
loud.
can't see the chat, so I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Oh
Why
man,
he
oh
said it.
man. But okay. Um, let's keep going. There's maybe Isaac pick up here. V'yesh Misha Machmir.
ויש שמחמיר בכך שהמתכת להצריך 60 כנגד כולו, אפילו לא הכניס אלא מקצת, משום דחם מקצתו חם כולו. Okay, so there are those who are machmir with a metal spoon to require 60 against the entirety of the spoon, because once one part of the spoon, even if you didn't put the whole spoon in the food, because you put one part of the spoon in and then the rest of it gets hot, because that's how metal works.
Exactly.
Okay, Hagar?
Yeah, do the Ramah.
אוקיי, ונוהגים כסברה הראשונה בכל איסור שמבטלים בשישים, אם מכירו צריך להסירו משם, אף על גב דכבר נתבטל טעמו בשישים. לכן אם
Right.
נפל...
We'll get the Lachen in a second. We'll stop
Okay.
there for a moment.
So according to the first opinion,
Yeah, I think right. The Ramah is saying we follow the first opinion about materials, right? We don't care if it's we don't follow the cham kulo cham mixato cham kulo. We follow the first opinion that it's the amount you dunk in. That's his noagim kesfar rishona. Okay, and now
okay, we don't care about the material of the utensils, and all Isurim need 60 to batel them. And if you can recognize it in some way, like identify where it is, it's not just completely sort of gone. We talked about this with the fat. Then you need to get it out of the food, even if the flavor has already been vatel in 60.
Good. Just one small point. I think he's not saying all Isurim are vatel b'shishim. Is any Isur that was mevatel b'shishim? Nonetheless,
Right.
if you can remove, you should remove.
Yeah.
Now he's going to get to
Yeah.
okay. How does this work? Go ahead.
ולכן אם נפל חלב לתוך התבשיל ונתבטל טעמו בשישים, צריך ליתן שם מים צוננים, וטבעה החלב להקפיא ולצוף למעלה על המים, ויסילנו משם דמאחר דאפשר להסירו, הווה כאילו מכירו, צריך להסירו משם. Okay, so because of this, if you have chalev that falls into a dish, and it's nullified, the ta'am is nullified in 60. You need to put a bunch of cold water in the dish, and then the chalev will like solidify, and it'll float to the top, and so you can get rid of it, take it out. Um, and since because it is possible to get it out by doing this process, it's
Mhm.
as though it's recognizable, and therefore you have to get rid of it.
Exactly. That's a
So in
major,
other words, anytime you can get rid of it, you have to,
yeah.
um,
So,
regardless of whether or not, like, I guess in theory, there are other things that could fall into this same concept, right? That it's not immediately obvious that you can take it out at this moment, but you can do some process by which you can take it out.
exactly. This is nobody responded when I in during the class when I put in the chat about centrifuges, but that's
I think having a centrifuge in your home for this purpose would be overkill in a way that even a light box is not.
fair enough. Fair enough. That's but um but yeah, it's a major principle. I wanted to we'll come back to the Shach because the Shach is gonna deal with a really it seems that in his world some people are saying, oh, but if you're able to remove it, then you don't need Shishim anymore. Right. And that's what he's gonna deal with that question. Like, so, if I do the cold water technique here and I get rid of all the chalev, do I still need shishim? The answer is going to be yes, but he's going to be dealing with people who are saying no. So, or you
Because
came off mute. Go ahead. No, not intentionally.
who, me?
Yeah. Did you?
Oh, I've been off mute. No, but I was gonna say because the whole idea is we don't know what came out of it. But if you're doing a removal technique, potentially you now have more certainty that you've removed it.
Well, good. So that seems to be the Havamina. Some people are like, well, look at this. This is like a foolproof technique. I got rid of all of it. But as we know from early, exactly what you said earlier in this Seif, wait a second. I drop a piece of meat in there and I take out the piece of meat. I still assume that there was some amount that went into the soup, and I still need a 60-to-1 ratio. So,
But also, just to clarify something maybe obvious, that we're assuming that Tom was already Batel B'Shishim
in this case, yeah. So he's
in
dealing
these
with the case.
cases.
What if the time isn't Batel, right? What if it's 30-to-1? Kind of
We
thing.
discussed that earlier, but for the purposes of this case, this is sort of like similar to like how we called it Ta'amo Umama Show. This is talking about the Mama Show part.
Yes.
The
So.
Ta'am is dealt with in its own 60.
Exactly. So, but it's kind of in some ways it has parallels. It's not the same thing. If you remember this Rashi, he thinks that you need to both have 60 and no tam, right? Ideally, right? So you should actually have it if you can. You have a kefela taste it, and there should also even if the kefela tastes it and says there's no taste, but there's not 60, according to Rashi, that's like you haven't done your job. But or you haven't been batel. So here again, it's not the same thing, obviously, but it's like the lack of getting rid of the taste by itself isn't enough. Here, it's not the ratio; it's you need to get rid of the thing, the actual any physical thing that you can get rid of. You need to get rid of. So, but
But in the later Shitot, when we're not using kfelas all the time, we sort of saw that. We talk about shishim, but we're not talking about. Were we also talking about Mama Show there? No, we were talking about the idea of shishim against the ta'am.
exactly, yeah. So
But here, there's like this more physicalized debate about morsels and things. When we say mashi etzami, what's the term? Etzami meno?
yeah,
We're talking about stuff, not ta'am.
we're actually talking about Tom.
See,
So
that's what, so I'm confused. I feel like we're re-adjudicating something that was previously adjudicated in that case.
how so?
Kama yatsami meno.
Yeah, since we don't know, in other words, it's one of these interesting things. Is like we have to go against the whole volume of the thing because we have to like, we make an assumption that the entire volume gave Tom's worth of stuff into the soup, even though there's still the same amount of volume left over as there originally was. So
But we don't know how much Tom.
yeah,
But then why? All right. I don't know why it feels like this should have come earlier, but
fair. That's we were
it's only Dalit, I guess.
yeah, we're early. Sadichet, by the way, this is the fastest we have ever in my years of doing this done Sadichet. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's like 4 or 5 weeks on this, I think. At least it feels like that. It like feels like forever on Sadichet. It's so fundamental. So uh, Good. Let's see. Let's finish up. Who was reading? Isaac, finish up the Ramah here.
Okay. Okay. איסור שנתבטל בקדרה והסירוהו משם, ונפל לקדרה אחרת, צריך לחזור ולבטלו בשישים כנגד כולו, וכן לעולם. אבל אם נפל לקדרה הראשונה שתי פעמים, אין צריך רק שישים אחד כנגדו. Blah blah. Okay, so an Easter that has been nullified in one pot, and then you take it out of the pot, and then it falls into a second pot. You still have to have 60 in the second pot to mevatel it with respect to whatever Tom it imparts into the second pot. But if it fell into this first pot two times, you only need 60 against it once. You don't need 160.
120.
120, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, 120.
Yeah.
Adis Rimumayah does not apply here.
Yeah. So
You have a Chatzi shear of the shear. Never mind. Okay, I need to stop making bad jokes.
yeah. So yeah, this is like an important point, right? That this is if you have like if it falls back into the same pot multiple times, you've already been vatel the flavor. You have to throw the thing out each time, but right, you've been vatel the flavor. But it can give its entire contents worth of flavor to another pot, right? Um, so yeah, this will come again also in a more interesting way, I think, when we get to the case of what if I've been sticking the Easter spoon in my pot all day, right? Do I need to be mevatel multiple times against it or just once? So, like Max borrows a spoon to make his, Shabbos soup from me, and I'm a terrible treif person, and I've used the spoon to make lobster. Do you use spoon to make lobster? I don't know. And he like didn't realize that, and all day he's been using my spoon. I'm like, oh, I forgot, Max, that's my treif spoon. That's like how many times does he need to be in Vatil? It's actually not quite as simple as the case of like, oh well, it's already been in the pot once. It's just 60 the entire time. So we'll get there. But okay. How we doing? Shach? Let's do some Shach on this piece. Let's just do all I want to do is Tet Zayin, which isn't it's not that long. Max, take it away.
Okay, ולכן אם נפל חלב ונסבטל טעמו בשישים.
Wait, is that Tet
You have the wrong one? Oh, Ted Vav, you said?
Tet Zayin. In the Shach.
That's what I have.
You have a Lachen Im.
Yeah, that was Tet Zayin in the Shach.
Wait, so do the word machil again? Was I going?
ולכן אם נפל חלב.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I was looking at the wrong one. Go ahead. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So just this is the line in the Ramah with the tzonanim and the chaylev coming up to the top.
Mhm.
Okay. Mashma dehecha deleka shishim lo mahani nesinas mayim tzonanim. So the implication here is that when you don't have shishim, there's no the water trick doesn't work.
Exactly.
V'chein kasa b'tzoras chatas klal pehei de.
I think it's Dibur Yud Zayin. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay.
I think this is the Torah Chatat of the Ramah, by the way, Ramah wrote a book. I'm going to do, there's actually a good chance to introduce books here. He wrote a book called the Torah Chatat. So.
Got it. Dibur Yud Zayin behedya v'chein kasav be'orchos.
Isser Veheter.
Isser Veheter.
Yeah, which I don't remember who's Isser Veheter. There's like several books people called Isser Veheter, but okay.
Okay, Klal Kaf Gimel Sof Dibur Yud B'Shem Ravan V'chein Kol HaPoskim Lo Hizkiru Heter Nesinas Mayim Tzonanim Heicha Deleka Shishim. Okay, it seems like everyone agrees here.
Hmm.
אלא ודאי, כיוון דליקה שישים, אף על פי שנושאין מים צוננים מכל מקום, מתחילה נפלט טעם העשר, וטעם הלא בטיל במה שמסיר השומן אחר כך, ולא עדיף מאילו נפל חסיכס עשר, אף על פי שמכירו והוא שלם וזרקו, צריך שישים נגד כולו.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, even though even though without shishim the mayim trick doesn't work, if some of the tam iser had exuded um it, in a way um in a way that the tam wasn't mevatel.
Yeah, in other words, it was less than 60, right? If it was
Right.
30 to 1 ratio,
Right.
it would be niflat, right? The time would be exuded and
Right.
unnullified, non-nullified. I don't know.
Right.
So,
Okay, and that's no better than if an iser piece of something um which you did notice and get rid of, you still need shishim
mhm,
on the whole thing.
exactly.
Um, ukidikisavo ha.
I think this is the tour, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Hator v'kol poskim delo kehabach shezamach atzmo ahagahas iser v'heter lahatir b'di'eved al yedei nesinas ma'im tzonanim afilu leika shishim. Okay, so he's shadow boxing against this position of the Bach, which says that no, b'di'eved, you can use the water trick even without shishim.
exactly. So,
It's all b'diavad.
um, yes, yeah, that's true.
Well, is it b'di'eved once you
When
put the water?
lechatchila?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm
Oh,
saying
I
you
guess
already
I
have the
guess
fat in there. You can't
yeah.
lechatchila put the fat in there.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
But I think the b'diavad is the water,
I think
right?
so too. Yeah, I think I remember from the Bach that's correct. It is like if you put the water in, if there was less than a ratio, like if you he's like lechatchila, you can't use this water trick if it's a 30 to 1 ratio. But if you did it, we'll let you eat the thing. Or remember b'diavad, by the way,
That's
b'diavad
funny.
doesn't only mean if you did it. B'diavad, we have a principle of zman dachach b'diavad dami, right? Difficult situations are like b'diavad. In other words, this is a solution when uh, it's Shabbos starts in 10 minutes and I have 30 guests coming, right? Kind of thing. So,
Mm.
um, which we're going to see. I mean, we're going to, Rav Landis talked about the Yashrut moment, in class the other day. It was Hefsed Merubah or whatever what the case was. We're going to see that so much in Isser V'Heter, right? It's all over the place of, yeah, this is what we do, but like, if you have 20 guests coming for Shabbos and you have 5 minutes, like, okay, you can be relaxed about this or um so
Just to be clear, you have 60 in this case against the ta'am, assumedly. You just don't have it against the volume of the thing that fell in.
no, here he's saying according to the Bach, the Bach thinks that if you had 30 to 1 against the volume of the thing that fell in, therefore, it's not batel, the flavor would not be batel. If you
Well, no, you don't know how much came out. This is the
Oh,
case.
you're
You
right.
know,
Yeah, you don't know how much
I'm
comes
saying
out.
it's reasonable that there's no ta'am,
Yeah, it's
but
possible. Yeah.
you're removing in this sort of shatat chaki way, you're removing the chaylev.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, what this b'diavad could be way too makil if you think about it. You could have what if I have a rove piece of chaylev fall in and I float it out? That's b'diavad, okay? No, it's got to be
Maybe. Maybe.
tenable.
I don't know.
Well, but
I
we
don't
started
know.
off by saying gufa isur to we're talking about removing gufa isur, not
Yes.
ta'am isur. It's assuming like we want to have 60 against the ta'am. We don't have an exact sense of mashani flat, but
In other words, you're making the claim. Sorry, Ori, I want to make sure I understand this. You're making the claim that the reason that you could be makil about this is the assumption that that maybe not all of it actually did come out, and therefore maybe the tam is batel. I think,
I thought the whole case is sort of setting up in a case where we sort of imagine the ta'am to be batel. after we take the Gufa Yisur out. But we have to measure against the whole Gufa Yisur anyways. That's really what the Shulchan Aruch is starting us off with. Now we're in this funny in-between case where, right? Let me just see if I'm getting this right.
I'm not so sure actually. So now I want to grab
Sarek Shishim
the
Keneged
Bach.
Kol HaYisur. When we say Sarek Shishim Neged Kol HaYisur, we're saying the thing that's already gone, right? Because we took it out.
Mhm.
That's the premise here. So you might think it's okay that we have 60 against the ta'am, which is the normal way we've been conceiving of this. But you actually have to go further. The whole thing that I took out, because I don't know how much came out, how
Yeah,
much ta'am came out. But again, we don't have, our assumption is that we have very little ta'am left, but we have to go as far as the actual volume of the thing that was in there. I guess I sort of have this in two tiers, and you sort of have it in one.
I do. Yes, I have it on
Yeah.
one. Hold on, I want to see now. Let's just take a look at
Didn't the Shach mention this though?
the Shach.
Yeah, the time of lo batel b'masha misira shuman.
Yeah,
What is he saying?
he's saying that just because don't think that just because you removed the goof that you removed the Tom, or that there's the Tom is batel now, right?
Hmm.
But
But the act of taking Gufa Yisur out is there to minimize how much time is left in a
yeah.
simple understanding.
So also, well, I think the other thing that's going on here is um, that in a normal case, like I drop a piece of meat into my soup of non-kosher meat, and I take the meat out, right? We still assume that some of the meat exuded into the soup. I think that one thing you could think of is this water trick, let's call it, actually is removing all of the Isur, Tom plus goof, right? And I think there's a way to rationalize that to yourself. And what the Shach is saying is no, it's not. And we have to assume that if you didn't have 60 to 1 against the goof, then there's still Tom Isur. You're saying, and I think it's really interesting saying, is like maybe by doing this trick, you've plus the fact that we actually don't know how much went out. Maybe we removed enough that it's the Tom is batel at this point. So
Well, what's the Bach relying on, more
oh, good.
importantly?
I wanted to double check. I couldn't remember. Anybody remember where this was in the Bach? But She'in Ela Tervot Isur. I think it's this one. Uh, uh,
$1 million, huh?
it's the Bach Tet. If anyone has the Bach on them, yeah, here it is. Um,
This is on Steve Dalit also, right? Yeah.
I assume it is. Yes.
Yeah, I have it.
Um,
I
but
only I only have it going up to Gimel. So what's the Dibur Matchil?
it's Umashikatav Ela Filu Makirova Hushalem Uzrako. And here we go. De'im nafal chelev l'tafshil, de'iten shamayim sonanim, v'ashuman saf lamala, v'ashar mutar
Very good.
hakal shono. Umayre b'di'ika shishim, dechol ma'idev shar le'asir et ha'isur tzarich le'asiro, afal gav de'ika shishim. Aval b'deleka shishim, ein lismoch al hasara zo, de'afal gav de'achshav mesir ha'chelev, kvar nesar tafshil mitchilat nefila shenatan botam, v'nesar. Ve'afshar le'sochto asur. וכך פסח מהרמה בתורת חטאת, כלל such and such, וכן כתב באיסור והתר, הערוך, such and such, וזה לשונו. והשיב ראבן, here we go, חלב שנפל לקדרה, ונימס, אם יש 60, מצווה ליתן בו מים קרים, לקרוש החלב אסירו, עד כאן לשונו. He says, if you have the chalev and it falls in the 60, you still got to get rid of it. אכן בהגהות שבסוף הספר, כלל כתב, what's such and such, כתב בהפך, וזה לשונו, here we go. ומכל מקום, טיפת חלב, sorry, שנפל לתוך רוטב של בשר, no, it's חלב, של בשר, כתב במרדכי, פרק גידה נשה, שישפוך עליו מים, צוננים, ויסיר כל השומן הצף עליה, למעלה, ונשאר מותר אפילו ליקה 60, עד כאן לשונו. There it is.
Wait,
Vishema.
but that's Chalav?
It's Chalav.
No, it's got to be
No,
halal.
it's got to be Caleb for the water check.
Oh, you're right. It's
Yeah.
Chalev. You're right. It's got to be Chalev. It's got to be Chalev. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I assume because it was meat. But you're right.
Congealing, yeah.
But icon of Vishema. Hainu mitam she'ein achelev mitarev barotev. Ela tzafala mala. He says maybe it's because it really didn't mix in. It all came up to the top. V'chol iser shef shar le'afrido legamre. Lo amrinan legabe chatichat atzmana senevila. V'efshar lesochta
Interesting.
asur. We don't say this about if you can truly remove the isur. We don't say this, right? Ve'ein sheyach bazeh mishum bitul isur. Shrei inu mivatlo leochlo. Ela motzio lechutz legamre. It's not about bitul. This is you completely remove the isur. Daha eina chelev mitaref. Right? Ve'ein tzarich shishim. Right? Ulahachi tzarich lasiro afilu ika shishim me'achar she'achol lakir. Okay, then he gets into this. And if you look down, he actually says, further on, he says, mikol makom me'achar shekatav bifnim b'shem Ravan debeleka shishim ein lo takana lasir ein lakel lachachila aval b'diavad ein lachush. Right? So that's how he rules. B'diavad.
Right, we read that.
So yeah,
Wait, but interestingly, is this an amis or not an amis? This case didn't have that word, I think.
Nimas.
Yeah, well, I'm reading it like in modern Hebrew, like melt. It didn't completely melt away.
Yeah. So
ומכל מקום, טיפת חלב שנפל לתוך רוטב של בשר. That's the case. טיפת חלב. כתב מרדכי שישפוך עליו מים צוננים. So it doesn't say that Mordechai case that we're really discussing. Doesn't say that it melted. Maybe that has something to do with it because tracing down this Tom.
yeah, I really think though I think the Bach is essentially or this was the Ravan seemingly here. It was the Ravan. It was saying like maybe there are processes. Let me put it this way: there might be processes that completely separate all of it. The Gufo and Tamo out of the thing, and this is a process that does that. It stops the mixture from or it undoes the mixture completely. And in that case, it'd be impermissible. So I don't think that's so crazy. Um, but we should probably get a kafela. We do an experiment. We can get a kafela to test this, right? It's drop uh, you know, of fat and these things and see what happens. Or drop a lot.
Just to clarify though, the Shach is saying that we don't hold like the Bach.
We do not. The shop
Right?
is like the Bach. Yeah, exactly. You need to have beetle. So um
Are there any Acharonim who hold by the Bach? Do we know?
great question. I don't know. I just actually look what's the prima
Well,
gadi
he's
say?
really quoting the Ravan.
Yeah.
Or they?
But
Or
I
there's
just
Beheter
feel
who
something
are-
is lost here though, because there's no attempt to measure the Tom. There's no attempt to measure the Mashani Flatni Meno. Like if I'm removing it, I obviously could be getting a lot closer to 60. Just measuring it by its, meaning the whole kula here has to be based on the idea that you've certainly minimized it to the point where you're most likely talking about bittul. To say there's no bittul is a little extreme. There's no bittul on the whole fat, but should there be bittul on mashani flatni meno? I should think so.
Yeah, I actually think your explanation is really interesting. But
I mean, it's
that like
also
you're
like,
like splitting the difference in some ways between the two, right? You're like, yeah, I agree that there still is some tarovet here, right? There's still some mixture. You didn't get rid of all the flavor, but you've probably gotten rid of more than you would have
well, I
otherwise.
think the
A
Bach is
lot
saying you
more.
have gotten rid of all the flavor.
That's what he's saying. He's saying you got rid of all of it. I think that's what he's claiming.
Yeah.
And Ori's trying to split the difference here, I think.
I mean,
Well, I think it's a lot more logical to say you're saying afilu ein shishim. Well, when you say afilu ein shishim, neged the whole piece, but you're not necessarily going so far to say there's no shishim in the tam that come out. By the way, even if you don't make a dichotomy between tam and mamash, because if you think about it scientifically, tam is just, broken down microscopic matter, but it's matter,
Yeah.
but it's a lot smaller. Its perceptibility, obviously, when you say tam, but it's something that's a lot smaller. So to have the shishim, I don't know. I guess no one is saying what I'm saying. Somebody's got to say it at some point.
Yeah. So, no, it's interesting. I'd be worth looking into it.
Find an achron for
like,
me.
hang on. I mean, I think the problem with saying now you don't know, because in this situation, by definition, you don't know exactly how much came out of it, right? And if you're in a situation where you're saying that we need to do something about what came out of it, but we don't know how much it is, then we don't have any, there's no system by which we measure that. Like you would have to create some whole other concept of how we measure to figure out what it would be that's less than 60.
But we do. We have a concept. We just don't use
Well,
it.
we have a concept for
Oh,
things that
kafela.
mean more than that. And I mean, there's Batel Barov, but I feel like Batel Barov doesn't really
Oh,
work.
no, we have Kfela, right? We have the taste tester, right? That is the system.
Yeah, but no,
Ah.
I don't think that's useful because like so many people are like, well, we just don't do that, right? And the whole point, I think, of people saying you can use 60 all the time, um, is is that you can get around the kafela. You don't have a kafela, you don't trust the kafela, whatever. I think we see among, regardless of how you hold on the kafela, a move to being able to work without a kafela. And so I
Yeah,
don't think that just have a kafela. I don't think that's really a valid, not a valid. When I say not a valid shita, I don't
We're
mean not a
talking
valid
about
shita
we're talking about
because it
Mickey.
doesn't make any sense. But like I don't think it's workable, and I don't think we can just fall back on that.
yeah. Come
I
on.
just want to strengthen what I'm saying. We're talking about Mickey Rowe, right? The whole point is I am taking out something that looks very similar to the thing that went in.
Yes.
So the Bach's being Kula here, it has to be resting not on the idea that I certainly removed all of it. It's resting on the idea that yes, a small, very small amount may have come out, but I certainly have 60 against that. You're just saying he's not saying that. So what? You think I got all of it out for real?
That seems to be his take. I mean, I don't think it's the only way.
In Lachush. Well,
Yeah.
that's the Bach,
Now you're
but
gonna
yeah.
make me go back to it. This is good. It's
Sorry.
good. Make me go back to it. Tzadi Tet in the Bach. אבל בסוף הספר כלל he says, מכל מקום טיפת חלב שנפל לתוך רוטב של בשר, כתב מרדכי פרק הנשה שישפוך עליו מים זוננים, ויסיר כל השומן הסף עליה למעלה, ונשאר מותר אפילו לקה 60. עד כמה שזה, that's, oh, here goes, ושמא היינו מיתם שאין החלב מתערב ברוטב, אלא צפה למעלה. He seemed to think like there was no mixture in the first place. It completely came out. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. The whole Isur chefs are left frido legamre. In any case where you can completely remove the Isur, lo amrin legabe chatichat zman
I
aseh.
don't understand why he brought up Hanan here. Is that relevant?
Oh yeah, it's to say that good because you've mixed it in right at the moment. When the mixture happens, then the soup becomes Isur, right? And
Even though I removed it.
even though you moved it, yeah. So.
But that's not the point of Hanan. The point is that it's also Oser.
What, yes, but Hanan also is Asur. So this is where Hanan and Eshal Sochto intersect. If it's right, if it's Hanan because Eshal Sochto doesn't do you just even if you are Eshal
Oh,
Sochto,
yeah.
it doesn't do
Yeah.
anything for you. Then you're stuck. You're forever Isur, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but
Right.
there
I
is
guess we're just missing an option in the middle.
exactly. There's potentially one case where we really do say Eshal Sochto Mutar absolutely, which is Kalim, right? Speaking of which, like it's worth thinking about that. You could argue against me. Well, no, you can't because you have to say kli midyan in the Torah is about because that's not about a ino ben yomo pot. That's about a ben yomo pot. You have to say rabbinic, So, uh, but yeah,
Okay.
if Efshar Sukto and Hanan are highly tied together, they're not exactly the same, but they're highly tied together. So,
Speaking of which, if I can ask another question, that's a segue.
sure.
So going back to the Shulchan Aruch on the spoon.
Mhm.
So if he doesn't care about material, because I caught this in the last year when I listened to it, um, Cheres, wasn't there a opinion here that Cheres would be much more machmir if I
Yes.
had a Cheres spoon that it was sort of like a Hanan spoon?
Yeah. It was
So
kaf.
that's not in the Shulchan Aruch then.
Well, let's go. Hold on a second. We'll work off the shach here. Kaf Aleph and Kaf. Yeah. This is in Hay. Let's read Hay, and then we'll talk about that. How's that? Ori, read Hay in the Shulchan Aruch.
Im
But
yadua kama hu ha'isur, if we know exactly how much the isur was, kigon kaf chadasha o she'ena bat yoma, sheni'er ba uval'a kezayit chalav.
yep, yeah.
Um, so it could either be a new spoon or just a not ben yomo spoon that I mixed in and it had a kazait of chalev or chalav.
It's chalav here. I'm pretty sure it's chalav. Yeah.
ואחר כך ניער בה קדירה של בשר. אין צריך אלא 60 לבטל הכזית שבלעה. So we need only 60 against the kazait, not the whole spoon. ולא אמרינה אם גבי כלי חתיכה נעשית נבלה. אפילו אם ניערו בו איסור. Okay, but this is just a kli. He's not saying what it's made out of.
Good. Exactly. Well, keep going.
אבל כף שנה uvat yoma misharin bekula. But if it's an older spoon, meaning it's been used multiple times with milk in this case,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it could
or
be
was used with milk that day.
it could be used one time with milk, but multiple times with meat earlier that day, right?
Well, they're okay. You sure?
Mhm.
Well, because the case is saying kazait chalav. I don't know if that makes a difference, but it might.
But well, good. Keep reading.
Which is אבל כפי שנאהבת יום המשארים בכולה. כל מה שבעלה נעשה איסור. ולא ידעינן כמה בעלה. Right, so it could be anything that it has absorbed is making the isur in this case.
Yeah.
And we don't know how much is in there.
But,
ויש מי שאומר שגם בזו אין צריך אלא 60 לבטל הכזית שבעלה. But there's also the Mekil opinion that even with this, you would only need 60 against the little kazait of milk.
but exactly.
So,
We see
keep going with the Rama.
well, first, before we do that, I just want to point out the shach there. He says, right, the sphirole the legabe devar balua lo armin and chanan, right? Because while we may say chanan, we don't say it for things that are absorbed in kalim, right? Because this is the idea is that it absorbs, pretend it's a meat spoon. It's been absorbing meat all day, and then I put it in a into a kazait of halav. Now you have a kazait halav with a spoon's worth of meat. And now the whole thing is all the meat inside there is chanan, right? It all becomes isur, and that's the problem. And other people say, no, it's not. But we don't have a chanan issue in terms of the stuff absorbed in kalim. But by the way, as a side note, it also could be, could this be chalev here? I'm not sure. It's interesting because the shach, we're not going to have time to do it. He thinks that this is might be the Shulchan Aruch saying that actually we hold chanan b'shar yisurim here.
But this happens to be a basar chalav case, right?
It does, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's a chalev. So yeah. So
for what it's worth, my the Ala Torah Nikud has chalav.
It does. Yeah, chalav makes more sense when you're talking about basar, right? Otherwise, usually often they'll talk about dam or something. And yeah. All right, but anyway, keep going to the Ramah for the moment. I wanted to בהסברה הראשונה.
בהסברה הראשונה עיקר כמו שנתפאר לאל גבי טיפת חלב שנפלה על הקדרה. Okay, so the first svara, which is the non-makil one, which is like, which we've seen in the case of a drop of chalav that falls into the pot.
We actually haven't seen it yet. We have. Yeah,
well, like in the Gemara.
Yeah, we also have. Yes. This is that one on the Kedera?
Does Le'el mean later? No, yeah,
Le'el means later. No, Le'el's above. You're right. It's in Basar B'chalav. That's why it's the Tipat Chalav.
But the Kaman is before.
The Kaman is further on.
Oh, I have it backwards. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That was my first read. Le'el, yeah, above. ויש שאינן מחלקין בין כף ישן לחדש, רק בין כלי חרס לשאר כלים, like in the Mordechai. That's what I'm remembering. ואומרים דבכלי חרס, דאי אפשר להפריד האיסור על ידי הגלה, אמרינן הכלי נעשה נבלה. Even better, הכלי נעשה נבלה. It's a kanan. אבל...
Nice.
I guess it could also be chanan. אבל לא בשאר כלים v'tov lachush lachumra. Okay, so it's just a different way to split it. I mean, there could still be a question of a ben yomo metal spoon.
Hmm.
I would think. Uh,
Say that again.
well, if you switch it, like uh, v'yesh she'enan mechalkin ben kaf yashan l'chadash, right? He's saying so. There are those who don't put the chilik on yashan or chadash or ben yomo, assume, but instead put it on cheres and other kelim. But I'm saying you could have a shita hypothetically that has both. That's
Yes.
machmir with ben yomo and with cheres. That's not ben yomo.
Hmm.
And the makil would only be the non-ben yomo metal and wood.
No, yeah, yeah, that's possible. So, but you're right, because this one seems to be we don't care about Yashan versus Hadash. All we care about is the type,
Material.
and you could have both applicable. I like that.
I
So
should think so. I mean, why are they mutually exclusive? It's a metal spoon doesn't hold its flavor as long as the Harris one, but it holds it for a day.
yeah, isn't that what is that what the Shach says in Kafalv? I'll read for a moment here. V'yesh she'ein mechalkin. This is Kafalv from the Shach. Mashin Sham Kan, what's like written here with B'Shulchan Aruch, is the Rashba b'Torat Habayit. B'Shem Haravad, Hu Ta'ut, right? דהרשב"א בשם הרב"ד לא כתב כן, אלא דבכלים שיש להם הכשר בהגלה, אפילו יודעין כמה בלה, אינם צריכים, או אינו צריך, לשער נגד כולו, אלא לפי עומד דעת, מה דנפיק מיני, right? That's actually, we saw this, right? It is not, right, that for things that have a hechsher, you just make a good, generous estimation of what came out of it. כמו שכתב בסעיף קטן י"ב, כמו שכתבתי, אבל לא מראה כלל מדין נעשה נבלה. Right? There's nothing to do with nasa v'leila. Ela hayesh she'ein mechalkin hu ma shekatav b'torat chatat reish klal such and such b'shem Mordechai. The katav b'devar sheyesh lo hagala lo amrinan bechanan kevan de'efshar le'afrida isor misham al yidei hagala. All right. So, but the ones who don't make a distinction, that's the Torah Chatat in the name of the Mordechai. They say that right, if you have Hagalah, then there's no Chanan because you could separate them. Yashan kamar hachi. Here we go. This is what you're talking about. But here we're only talking about an old Kli. Aval b'chli chadash afilu shel cheres vaday enu oleh al adat shekufa cheres yasen nevila. Right?
Oh, it's actually the inverse of what I was
The
saying. I was
inverse of
saying
what
an
you're saying.
easier thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be makil. Like even if you're gonna be machmir about kli cheres, you clearly can't be machmir on a new kli cheres. Like it's not like well,
You
I'm
can't
not
ruin
gonna.
it that quickly.
Was that?
You can't ruin it that quickly.
Exactly. I'm not going to do basar v'chalav here because we're going to see the next chef willing in a minute. Let's just say, I stuck my new spoon in chalev, and then I in like a kazait of chalev, and then I stuck it in my kosher soup. It's just all I need is kazait. I don't need the whole spoon, right? But I don't know how many spoons have more content of metal than kazait, but that's okay. That's another question. But or content of cheres. Someone should measure that.
I've never even seen a Harris spoon, but that's.
Yeah, yesterday we love Chain Data Marshal, Be'Isr V'Heter Shalo, Sifro would be his Yam Shel Shlomo, Perak Gida Nasheh, etc., etc. V'Kein Abach, Hisig Al Harav Bazeh, B'Masha Katav Dekli Cheres Chadash Nasa Nevila. U'Mikol Makom Nir'eh De'Beyeshana Yesh Le'Achmir כאותן הפוסקים והמחבר מכללם דנעשה נבלה אפילו בדבר שיש לו היתר בהגלה ולומר
That's what I'm.
right?
This is my case.
Yeah, right.
An old metal spoon.
All spoons, yeah. If old, spoons that have been old, spoons that have been used a bunch that day, right? We should be very stringent, not very. We should be stringent, like those people, including the mechaber, that they are nasen nevela, even b'davar sheyesh lo heter b'hagala, even if you can kasher them. Lomar de sof sof hashta balua ba nasen nevela, right? Nonetheless, at the moment, the stuff absorbed in it is a nevela. Aval behefsed merubeh. Ukahai Gavna, Yesh Leakel Kaposkim, the Bishal Eitzu Matechet Lor Mina Nasa Nevila. Ukri Ray Marshall. He says, but But diavad, I actually think that you and not diavad, but hefsed meruba in a hefsed meruba case, then you can be makel about this. So he thinks being kar hadin, actually, we do follow this.
Can I ask a really stupid question?
I'm sure it's not stupid. Go ahead.
There, there were points in learning this material where I felt like because of this whole thing about like if yesh hagalah or like in hagalah, that some of the poskim seem to think there is or be not sure about whether or not there is a difference between the Isser that's Balua in the Kli versus the Kli itself.
Hmm.
And those two things have different statuses. And
Yes.
that's like very weird. I mean, it's weird, but it's not weird, right? In the sense of like, if the Isser itself can become Hanan, and it doesn't necessarily make the Kli Hanan, that actually makes you end up in a much easier situation. For example, like you have this Hagalah, right? Like then,
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. I actually think that this is an interesting thing where I think everyone agrees that the Kli itself doesn't become Hanan if it's a kasherable Kli. There's a two different things about whether or not two different takes on whether or not, like let's say for a Kli Cheres, is the Kli itself becoming a Hanan, or is it the stuff in the Kli becoming Hanan because it never really leaves and therefore we're more strict about it. And it's like forever exuding little bits of Easter into the world or something like that, as opposed to the one where it's like has a measurable amount of Easter that it will exude. And I think that the two kind of start to overlap a little bit because I think some of the problem with Kli Cheres is like, yeah, it has Easter and it becomes Hanan, but like Kli Cheres, like let's say a Kli Cheres is a volume of Kazait, has the ability to exude 3 billion zaytim of Isser, like because you could just keep dipping it into things and it will just keep giving you Isser, right? Because it never fully leaves and it keeps giving Isser. And there is this really, it's at that point you're essentially saying the Kli itself is Hanan. I think you're coming very close to it, if not saying that.
I mean, if the Kli can exude more Isser than the volume of the Kli itself, we've just crossed into like one of those weird, magical pockets.
Yeah, I mean we
Well,
don't.
it's Tom. It's Tom in a different sense than volume, right? It's Tom like it's we assume
You're
it's
saying like
gonna
Tom
keep
is
giving
is
taste.
I
Maybe.
mean,
Well,
Wait, but
this
you can still wait,
well,
can you measure
we
60
don't
against the
measure against
spoon
the
or not?
Tom. We measure against like the Easter that's Balua slash Niflat,
Yeah,
right?
but no, but the idea is that one of the ideas of Hanan is that the thing keeps. Yes, it's we don't say it unreasonable. Like if you stick the spoon in, we're like the thing isn't automatically Aser because the spoon can give 1 billion times its size. That we don't say that.
No, because it's still 60
Yeah,
against the volume of the spoon.
exactly. But what we say is
Yeah.
the spoon for its entire lifetime can keep doing that. That's the
Okay.
difference. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, that I agree with.
Yeah. But one other, I just want to, I'm looking at the time. I wanted to just do the next shach here too, because I think there's like a really important principle. If people mind if I read one more time, I'm having fun right now. So, this is the Bechli Cheres, right? Nasen Nevila, right? Hainu Kishibala Isur. That's when the Kli Cheres absorbs Isur. Aval Kli Cheres Chadash. Shabala Chalav. Obasar. Levad. Lo shayach nase nevela, right? But if like you have a new spoon, new klichera spoon, and you stick it in milk, right? And hot milk, it absorbs the hot milk, but not just hot milk. You can't say it's nase nevela. Teha filu b'chaticha uv'hai gavne lo amrina b'chai gavne dinase nevela kiven da dayin kulo heter, right? You can't say it's nase nevela because it's still heter, and we're going to see this in Sadi Daled, right? And in many other places, V'chama Duchti, many other places. But what he's saying is, right, same thing happens if I have, let's say I have an onion, right? And my onion, right, this onion's spicy, we'll get into the spiciness. And my onion absorbs, I cut the onion with a milk knife and it absorbs milk. The onion is not a nasa nevela. I now drop this onion into meat soup. I don't have to. Oh wait, our spicy things may be different. I don't want to say spicy. All right. Let's say I cook. I cook a potato in milk. In a milk pot. A milk pot I use that day, and then I drop the potato in meat soup. I don't say the entire volume of the potato is an isur because it's not, right? Because the potato with absorbed milk is perfectly heter, right? You can eat a potato with milk, right? So it's only the milk I have to go against when I drop it into that pot. I don't have to go against the potato. Um, we never say Hanan for something that's not actually Nevela, right? If it's still in its heter form, it's only about the stuff inside of it that will make it a problem. So there's actually another principle too, by the way, that I didn't get to it, but when we get to the salt and the spices stuff, we have a principle that if something is absorbed something else, and a heter absorbs an isur, it can never be more infecting than the isur itself. That's in it,
Okay.
right? So like I have some salt that absorbs a little pork juice, right? And now we know salt, right, or spices can infect in a much greater ratio than 60. But since pork juice can infect greater than ratio than 60, the salt itself can't infect greater. The salt has to be um, an isur me'atzmo from itself, not from something that's balua. Um, so okay, I don't think I
Where
did.
did we see that? I remember we saw it, but do you remember where?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I saw it in where did I see it? Um, there's Shach Lamed Bet, and I think also it's in Shach Lamed Bet. Um, but could go on, yeah. Oh, Imisri Mechmat Atzman, right? It's actually in the Ramah. He says, right, Lechen Melech v'Tavlin midvarim de'avidi letama imasri Mechmat Atzman. Only if they are Isra of their own, and then the Shach says Kagon Tavlin Shel he gives examples. Sorry, Lafuke Bluim mi Isur, and he references another place. And if you look in the Pri Megadim there in his Siftei Dat, he spells that out. So I do have to go, and this is not
Oh,
why
yeah.
this is organized, so I apologize. We didn't nearly cover what I wanted to cover, but we had a great
That
discussion.
was our fault.
No, no, it was good. As a teacher, I should be able to stop you if I need to. So, and it's a good discussion that I didn't want to let it go. So, Yasher Koach, everybody. Have a
Sure.
good Shabbos. I will see you.
Shabbos.
Thank you.
Good Travis.